In the last episode, Aethereia teetered on the brink of ecological disaster as Alex's team on Elysium regrouped, still reeling from their recent losses. The weight of Aethereia's impending catastrophe hung heavy on their minds, fueling a newfound sense of purpose within Alex. A message from Aethereia's resistance set him on a perilous path. I stood at the viewport of our Elysium habitat, gazing out at the desolate expanse of Aethereia's dying landscape. The gravity of our situation threatened to crush me. A holographic message flickered to life before me, transmitted from the Aethereia resistance. I recognized the hooded figure, a symbol of their struggle against Archon's tyrannical regime. The figure's voice was laced with urgency. We have reason to believe Archon's forces are accelerating their destructive practices. Our scientists have pinpointed a hidden energy signature tied to Lyra's biotechnology, which could be the key to reversing Aethereia's ecological collapse. My mind racing, I knew I had to act. I reached out to the resistance, agreeing to meet with their representative. A name echoed in my thoughts: Arkea, a skilled warrior with knowledge of Aethereia's ancient artifacts. The comm system beeped, signaling an incoming message. I turned to face the view screen as Arkea's rugged features appeared. "We need your help, Alex. Our intel suggests a powerful relic hidden within the ancient city of Eldred could amplify your latent abilities. Are you willing to take that risk?" I hesitated for a moment before responding. "I'm in." "When and where do we meet?" A hint of a smile played on Arkea's lips. "I'll send coordinates for a secure drop. Come alone." The transmission ended and I was left standing there, a sense of resolve settling within me. I took a deep breath, mentally preparing for the journey ahead. Elysium's AI, Eve, interrupted my thoughts. "Alex, I've plotted the coordinates Arkea provided. Our shuttle is ready." I nodded, a plan already forming in my mind. "Let's do this, Eve." The shuttle's engines hummed to life as we broke free of Elysium's gravitational pull, plunging into the unknown. Aethereia's landscape rushed up to meet us, a foreboding welcome. As we descended, an unsettling energy pulsed through my veins. Something was off. The shuttle landed with a gentle thud, sending up a plume of rust-red dust. I stepped out into the stillness, Arkea waiting by a sleek black aircraft. Without a word, we climbed in and the vehicle hurtled across Aethereia's treacherous terrain. The ride was smooth, but my mind churned with questions. What lay hidden in Eldred? What secrets would Arkea reveal? The landscape blurred outside, an endless expanse of crimson rock and withered vegetation. Aethereia's beauty was fading, and with it, hope. Arkea's voice cut through my thoughts. "We're close." The vehicle slowed and I caught sight of the ancient city's crumbling spires. Eldred's secrets awaited, shrouded in mystery and danger. We disembarked, the silence between us thick with anticipation. Together we set off toward the heart of Eldred. Footsteps echoed through the stillness, accompanied by the distant hum of hidden machinery. The journey was just beginning. With every step, Aethereia's fate drew closer, hanging precariously in the balance. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The device in my pocket seemed to thrum with energy, a reminder of the power that could tip the scales. I glanced at Arkea, a sense of camaraderie forming between us. We were in this together now. The path ahead twisted and turned, fraught with peril, but I was no longer alone. The ancient city loomed before us, a testament to Aethereia's forgotten glory. As we ventured deeper, the air thickened with an eerie energy. The moment of truth was approaching. I could feel it. My heart pounded in my chest, anticipation and fear warring within me. A hidden relic, ancient technology, and a chance to change Aethereia's course. It all began here, in the shadow of Eldred previously. Alex received a message from Aethereia's resistance, urging him to take action against Archon's forces, which were accelerating their destructive practices. He agreed to meet with Arkea, a skilled warrior, to retrieve a powerful relic in the ancient city of Eldred that could amplify his latent abilities and reverse Aethereia's ecological collapse. As I stepped into the heart of Eldred, the air seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy. Ancient structures loomed around me, their intricate carvings and mysterious symbols whispering secrets of a forgotten era. Archea's hand hovered near the hilt of her sword, her eyes scanning the shadows for hidden dangers. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath our feet. A low rumble echoed through the city, growing louder with each passing moment. Archea's gaze locked onto mine, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "We're not alone," she replied, her hand tightening around her sword. "Archon's forces must have tracked us. We need to move now." With that, she sprinted forward, her long strides eating up the distance. I followed close behind, my heart pounding in my chest. The rumble grew louder, the ground shuddering violently as we navigated the treacherous terrain. We burst through a doorway, slamming it shut behind us just as a massive explosion rocked the city. The blast sent us stumbling backward, the sound of crumbling stone and screeching metal filling the air. As the dust settled, I peered around, taking stock of our surroundings. We found ourselves in a dimly lit chamber, the walls lined with ancient artifacts and mysterious devices. A pedestal at the far end of the room drew my attention, upon which rested a small, glowing crystal. "The relic," Arkea whispered, her eyes fixed on the crystal. "It's the key to amplifying your abilities." But we weren't alone. A figure emerged from the shadows, his eyes cold and calculating. Thrakos, Archon's ruthless enforcer, sneered at us from the doorway. "I don't think so, Alex," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "You're not taking anything from this place, not while I still breathe." With that, he charged forward, his sword flashing in the dim light. Arkea drew her own blade, her movements fluid and deadly. I stood frozen, unsure of how to react. But something within me stirred, a primal energy surging through my veins. It was time to unleash my true potential. In the heart-pounding battle that ensued, I discovered a new facet of my abilities. The device in my pocket pulsed with energy, responding to my growing desperation. With every strike, every dodge, and every parry, I felt my connection to the device strengthening. The ancient technology within me began to awaken, responding to the relic's power. As Thrakos fell to the ground, defeated, I realized that I had only scratched the surface of my true abilities. The relic, now in my possession, seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. I gazed at Arkea, a newfound sense of camaraderie and purpose binding us together. "We're not done yet," I said, my voice filled with determination. "There's still so much to uncover, so much to fight for. Aethereia's future is worth fighting for." Arkea nodded, a fierce glint in her eye. "Then let's get to work, Alex. We have a planet to save." Together we set out into the unknown, the relic's power coursing through me like a beacon of hope. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but I was no longer alone. I had Arkea, I had the device, and I had a purpose. The fate of Aethereia hung in the balance, and I was ready to tip the scales. Previously, Alex answered the call from Aethereia's resistance, joining forces with Arkea to retrieve a powerful relic in the ancient city of Eldred. As they navigated the treacherous landscape, they were ambushed by Archon's forces, and a thrilling battle ensued. With the relic in hand, Alex unleashed his true potential, discovering new facets of his abilities. As we emerged from the chamber, the ancient city of Eldred lay before us, its structures still smoldering from the recent battle. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and ozone. Arkea and I shared a moment of triumph, the relic's power coursing through me like a river of hope. But our respite was short-lived. As the sound of distant rumbling grew louder, echoing through the city's ruins, I exchanged a worried glance with Arkea, her eyes narrowing as she sensed the approaching danger. "What's happening now?" I asked, my hand instinctively reaching for the relic. "It can't be," Arkea muttered, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "The underworld's tunnels are shifting. Archon's engineers must have triggered a catastrophic event." The ground began to shudder, and the sky darkened as if night was falling prematurely. I felt the relic pulsing in my pocket, responding to the growing energy fluctuations. Suddenly, the earth split open and a massive chasm yawned before us, spewing forth a torrent of molten lava and noxious fumes. The very fabric of Aethereia's underworld was unraveling. "We need to get out of here now," Arkea yelled, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the city's outskirts. As we fled, the chasm's edges began to close, the lava flows hardening into a twisted, nightmarish landscape. We stumbled through the ruins, dodging fallen debris and leaping over crackling energy arcs. The air was becoming increasingly toxic, and I could feel the device in my pocket thrumming in response to the escalating chaos. We finally reached the relative safety of the city's outer walls, gasping for air as we gazed upon the apocalyptic vista. The underworld's instability was spreading, threatening to engulf the entire planet. Arkea's expression was grim, her eyes flashing with determination. "We need to warn the resistance," she said, her voice laced with urgency. "This is just the beginning. Archon's engineers will stop at nothing to ensure Aethereia's downfall." I nodded, my grip on the relic tightening as a fierce resolve ignited within me. I would not let Aethereia fall. The fate of this planet and its people was mine to protect. With Arkea by my side, I set out to rally the resistance, to forge an unstoppable force that would counter Archon's destructive plans. Together, we would uncover the secrets of Lyra's biotech, master the ancient relics, and unleash the full fury of my abilities. The battle for Aethereia's future had only just begun, and I was ready to lead the charge. Previously, Alex and Arkea retrieved a powerful relic in the ancient city of Eldred, only to be ambushed by Archon's forces and trigger a catastrophic event that set the underworld's tunnels shifting, causing a chasm to open and spew forth molten lava and toxic fumes. As Aethereia's ecosystem teeters on the brink of collapse, Alex and Arkea flee the city, determined to warn the resistance and rally against Archon's destructive plans. As we emerged into the bright, dusty light of day, the contrast between the desolate landscape and the eerie, hellish scene we'd just escaped was jarring. I took a deep breath, trying to clear my head, but the acrid smell of smoke and ash clung to my clothes and skin. Arkea's grip on my arm remained firm, her eyes scanning the horizon as she led me toward a cluster of makeshift tents and makeshift shelters, the Resistance's temporary base of operations. We pushed through the flapped entrance of the largest tent, where a handful of rebels huddled around a makeshift map table, their faces illuminated only by the faint glow of luminescent orbs. The air inside was heavy with tension and the weight of desperation. Kale, the resistance leader, looked up as we entered, his eyes locking onto mine with an unspoken plea for hope. "Arkea, Alex, what's the situation?" he asked, his voice laced with a mix of concern and urgency. I briefed him on the catastrophic event, the spreading instability of the underworld, and the dire implications for Aethereia's ecosystem. As I spoke, the rebels' faces fell, their hope dwindling with each passing moment. But I refused to let despair take hold. "We need to act fast," I said, my determination palpable. "We can't let Archon's engineers continue to wreak havoc on this planet. We need a plan to counter their moves, to find a way to stabilize the underworld and restore balance to Aethereia's energy signature." Arkea stepped forward, her eyes burning with a fierce intensity. "I know the ancient artifacts better than anyone," she said. "I can help you, Alex. Together, we can uncover the secrets of Lyra's biotech and master the relics. We just need to find a way to harness their power." Kale nodded, his jaw set in determination. "We have a lead on a hidden bunker deep within the underworld. It's rumored to contain ancient knowledge, including Lyra's research notes. If we can retrieve them, we might have a chance to understand what's happening to Aethereia and find a way to stop it." I nodded, a sense of purpose driving me forward. "Let's do it. We'll assemble a team, infiltrate the bunker, and retrieve the research notes. It's time to take back control of Aethereia's fate." As I spoke, the rebels around me nodded, their determination kindling into a flame of hope. We set to work, planning our next move, and I knew that this was just the beginning of a long, treacherous journey. But I was ready. With Arkea by my side and the rebels united behind us, we would fight to reclaim Aethereia, no matter the cost previously. Alex and Arkea narrowly escaped the ancient city of Eldred as it was consumed by a catastrophic event triggered by Archon's forces, and they fled to the Resistance's base to warn them of the impending ecological disaster. Now, with Aethereia's ecosystem on the brink of collapse, Alex and the rebels must act fast to counter Archon's destructive plans. As we gathered around the map table, poring over makeshift diagrams and cryptic notes, our sense of urgency turned to desperation. We knew the stakes were higher than ever and the weight of our mission hung heavy on our shoulders. But I refused to let fear take hold. Instead, I channeled my determination into action. "All right, let's review our plan," I said, my eyes scanning the makeshift maps and diagrams. "We need to infiltrate the hidden bunker, avoid Archon's forces, and retrieve Lyra's research notes. Arkea, can you guide us through the underworld's tunnels and get us to the bunker undetected?" Arkea nodded, her eyes locked on the maps. "I know the tunnels like the back of my hand. I can get us there, but we'll need to move fast and stay quiet. Archon's patrols are getting more aggressive by the hour." Kale, the Resistance leader, spoke up, his voice firm. "We've managed to gather a small team of rebels who are willing to take on this mission. They're skilled, but we can't guarantee their safety. Are you sure you're ready for this, Alex?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. "I was born ready for this, Kale." "Well, get in, get the research notes, and get out. We'll make it happen." As we finalized our plan, a commotion erupted outside the tent. Shouts and screams pierced the air, accompanied by the sound of gunfire and explosions. I exchanged a worried glance with Arkea and we rushed out of the tent to find chaos erupting around us. Archon's forces had launched a surprise attack on the Resistance base, taking advantage of our momentary distraction. Rebels scrambled to defend themselves, but they were vastly outnumbered. I knew we had to act fast to protect our people and our mission. "Arkea, get the team ready," I shouted above the din. "We need to hold off Archon's forces until we can evacuate the base and get to the bunker." Arkea nodded, drawing her sword, and together we charged into the fray. The battle was intense, with bullets flying and rebels falling left and right. But I refused to back down. I fought with every ounce of strength I had, driven by my determination to save Aethereia and its people. As the fight raged on, I spotted a chance to turn the tide. A group of rebels had managed to take down an Archon mech, and I saw an opportunity to use its firepower against our enemies. I sprinted towards the mech, dodging bullets and leaping over debris. With Arkea covering me, I climbed into the mech's cockpit and activated its systems. The machine roared to life, and I unleashed its fury upon Archon's forces. The battle turned in our favor, and slowly but surely, we pushed the enemy back. As the dust settled, I surveyed the aftermath. The Resistance base was in ruins, but we'd managed to hold off Archon's forces. Our people were safe for now, and our mission was still on track. But I knew this was only the beginning. The journey to the hidden bunker would be treacherous, and the secrets we uncovered would change everything. I steeled myself for what lay ahead, knowing that the fate of Aethereia hung in the balance. "Let's move out," I said, my voice firm. "We've got a bunker to infiltrate, and a planet to save." With Arkea by my side and the rebels at my back, we set off into the unknown, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. The clock was ticking, and Aethereia's future hung in the balance. But I was ready. I was ready to fight, to lead, and to save this planet from the brink of collapse previously. Alex and Arkea narrowly escaped the ancient city of Eldred as it was consumed by a catastrophic event triggered by Archon's forces, and they fled to the Resistance's base to warn them of the impending ecological disaster. Now, with Aethereia's ecosystem on the brink of collapse, Alex and the rebels must act fast to counter Archon's destructive plans. As we set out towards the hidden bunker, the weight of our mission settled heavy on our shoulders. We navigated the treacherous underworld tunnels, avoiding deadly traps and patrols, our senses on high alert. Arkea led the way, her intimate knowledge of the ancient artifacts and hidden energy signatures guiding us through the labyrinthine passages. Suddenly, the air was filled with an eerie, pulsating energy. The tunnels began to shift and tremble, and I felt an ancient power coursing through the walls. Archea's eyes locked onto mine, and I knew we were close. "We're here," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the growing hum of energy. "The hidden bunker is just ahead." As we approached the entrance, a massive stone door slid open, revealing a dimly lit chamber filled with rows of ancient consoles and terminals. Lyra's research notes were scattered across the main console, and I breathed a sigh of relief as I began to scan the data. But our celebration was short-lived. Archon's forces had tracked us to the bunker, and a contingent of heavily armed soldiers stormed into the chamber. We drew our weapons, ready to defend our prize, but I knew we couldn't hold out for long. That's when I saw a strange, glowing orb hovering above the main console. It pulsed with an otherworldly energy, and I felt an inexplicable connection to it. Without thinking, I reached out and the orb descended into my hand. The chamber erupted into chaos as the soldiers opened fire. But I stood frozen, the orb's energy coursing through me. I raised my hand, and a blast of energy shot out, disintegrating the enemy forces and sending the rebels scrambling for cover. As the dust settled, I stared at the orb in awe. I had no idea what it was or what it did, but I knew it was the key to unlocking Aethereia's secrets. Arkea approached me, her eyes wide with wonder, and together we began to study the orb's power. "This is it," I whispered, my heart racing. "This is the key to saving Aethereia." But as we delved deeper into the orb's mysteries, I realized that our greatest challenge was only just beginning. The secrets we uncovered would change everything, and the fate of Aethereia hung in the balance. I steeled myself for what lay ahead, knowing that the journey to come would be fraught with danger, uncertainty, and ultimate sacrifice. Previously, Alex and Arkea escaped the ancient city of Eldred as it was consumed by a catastrophic event, and they fled to the Resistance's base to warn them of the impending ecological disaster. Now, with Aethereia's ecosystem on the brink of collapse, Alex and the rebels must act fast to counter Archon's destructive plans. As I grasped the mysterious orb, its power coursing through me, I felt an unshakable sense of determination. I knew that I held the key to saving Aethereia, but I also knew that the road ahead would be treacherous. Archea's eyes locked onto mine, and I saw a flicker of concern. "What does it do?" she whispered, her voice laced with a mix of awe and trepidation. I turned to the rebels, my mind racing with the implications. "We need to learn everything we can about this orb. Its power could be the key to defeating Archon and saving this planet." The rebels nodded, their faces set with determination. We began to study the orb, poring over Lyra's research notes and experimenting with its energy. Hours turned into days as we delved deeper into the orb's secrets, and I began to realize the true extent of its power. But our progress was short-lived. Archon's forces launched a series of relentless attacks on the bunker, trying to reclaim the orb and crush the rebellion once and for all. We fought back, using the orb's energy to bolster our defenses, but I knew that we couldn't hold out for much longer. That's when Arkea approached me with a look of urgency. "Alex, we need to get out of here, now. The bunker's defenses are failing and we can't hold out much longer." I nodded, my heart racing. We gathered our gear and the orb, preparing to make a break for the surface. But as we turned to leave, I saw a hidden console, hidden behind a wall of screens. Lyra's notes were scribbled across the screen, pointing to a shocking revelation. "Aethereia's ecosystem isn't just collapsing," I whispered, my eyes wide with horror. "It's being manipulated. Archon's been using the planet's ancient technology to accelerate the disaster." Archea's face paled. "What does that mean?" I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine. "It means that Archon's been playing us all along. The ecological disaster isn't a natural event, it's a deliberate act of destruction, and we're the only ones who can stop it." The rebels exchanged worried glances, but I knew that we couldn't afford to hesitate. We had to act, and fast. I grasped the orb, feeling its power coursing through me, and I knew that I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. "Let's move out," I said, my voice firm. "We have a planet to save." Previously, Alex and Arkea escaped the ancient city of Eldred as it was consumed by a catastrophic event, and they fled to the Resistance's base to warn them of the impending ecological disaster. Now, with Aethereia's ecosystem on the brink of collapse, Alex and the rebels must act fast to counter Archon's destructive plans. As I gazed up at the ruins of the bunker, flames engulfing the rubble, I knew we had to keep moving. The orb's power still coursed through me, and I felt an unshakable sense of determination. We couldn't let Archon win, not now that we knew the truth. Split into teams, I shouted to the rebels, "We need to find a way to disable Archon's technology and restore balance to the ecosystem. Arkea, you're with me. Well, track down any leads on the ancient artifacts that can aid us." With the rebels dispersing to their assigned tasks, Arkea and I set off into the unknown, venturing deeper into Aethereia's treacherous landscapes. The air grew thick with toxic fumes as we navigated the ruins of once thriving cities, now reduced to rubble and decay. The silence was oppressive, a constant reminder of the fate that awaited us if we failed. Our first lead took us to an abandoned research facility on the outskirts of a ravaged city. As we crept through the deserted halls, I sensed an eerie energy emanating from the walls, a residual power that lingered long after the scientists had fled. Arkea's eyes scanned the area, her senses honed for any signs of danger. We stumbled upon a hidden laboratory, the walls lined with ancient artifacts and cryptic diagrams. In the center of the room, a massive console hummed with energy, pulsing with an otherworldly power. I felt the orb in my hand react, its energy resonating with the console's frequency. "This is it," I whispered, my heart racing. "This is the key to reversing the ecological disaster." But our triumph was short-lived. Thrakos emerged from the shadows, his eyes blazing with hatred. "You fools," he snarled. "You think you can stop Archon's plan? I'll crush you just like I crushed Lyra." Arkea drew her sword, her eyes flashing with determination. I raised the orb, channeling its energy into a blast of light that sent Thrakos stumbling back. We fought our way out of the laboratory, the console's power coursing through me, imbuing me with an unyielding resolve. As we escaped the facility, the city around us began to decay at an alarming rate. The very fabric of Aethereia's ecosystem seemed to unravel before our eyes. I knew that time was running out. We had to find a way to harness the console's power and restore balance to the planet. The rebels reassembled, their faces etched with worry. "We found something," one of them said, holding up a small, intricately carved stone. "This ancient relic can amplify the orb's energy, but we need to find a way to synchronize them." I gazed up at the darkening sky, the toxic fumes churning above us. "We don't have much time," I said, my voice firm. "Let's get to work. We have a planet to save." As we set to work, the silence between us was filled with a newfound sense of determination. We were no longer just rebels fighting against Archon's tyranny. We were the last hope for Aethereia's survival. And I was ready to lead the charge. Previously, Alex and Arkea escaped the ancient city of Eldred as it was consumed by a catastrophic event, and they fled to the Resistance's base to warn them of the impending ecological disaster. With Aethereia's ecosystem on the brink of collapse, Alex and the rebels must act fast to counter Archon's destructive plans. As I stood amidst the ruins of the research facility, the hum of the console still echoing in my mind, I knew we had to push forward. The fate of Aethereia hung in the balance, and I was determined to be the one to tip the scales. "Arkea, we need to find a way to synchronize the relic with the orb," I said, my eyes locked on hers. "If we can amplify its energy, we might be able to reverse the damage." Arkea nodded, her hand instinctively reaching for the relic in her pocket. "I know of an ancient site that might hold the key to unlocking the relic's power," she said, her voice laced with a hint of urgency. "But we'll have to navigate through the underworld's labyrinthine tunnels to get there." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in anticipation. The underworld was a treacherous place, riddled with deadly traps and hidden dangers, but I knew that we had no other choice. "Let's move out," I said, my voice firm. "We'll face whatever dangers lie ahead together." With Arkea leading the way, we delved into the depths of the underworld, the air growing thick with the stench of decay and death. The tunnels twisted and turned, leading us through narrow passages and hidden chambers. As we navigated the treacherous landscape, we stumbled upon ancient murals depicting the secrets of Aethereia's ancient artifacts. Archea's eyes scanned the walls, her knowledge of the ancient lore guiding us through the labyrinth. But we weren't alone. Archon's forces were closing in, their patrols sweeping through the tunnels in search of us. We fought our way through narrow corridors, the sound of blaster fire and clashing steel echoing off the walls. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, we reached the ancient site. The ruins of an ancient temple lay before us, the entrance guarded by a massive stone statue of an ancient warrior. "This is it," Arkea said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is the site of the ancient artifact that can synchronize the relic with the orb." But as we approached the statue, it came to life, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly energy. "You shall not pass," it declared, its voice like thunder. I raised the orb, channeling its energy into a blast of light that sent the statue stumbling back. Arkea seized the opportunity, leaping forward to claim the artifact. As we emerged from the temple, the underworld's tunnels seemed to fade away, replaced by the ravaged landscape of Aethereia's surface. The toxic fumes still churned above us, but I knew that we were one step closer to saving the planet. The rebels reassembled, their faces etched with exhaustion and worry. "We did it," I said, my voice firm. "We have the artifact. Now let's get to work and synchronize the relic with the orb." As we set to work, the silence between us was filled with a newfound sense of hope. We still had a long way to go, but for the first time I felt like we might actually have a chance to save Aethereia. But just as we began to make progress, a message from the Resistance's leader, Kale, crackled through the comms system. "Alex, we've detected a massive energy surge building around Archon's stronghold. It's a trap Thayer trying to lure you in." I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine. Archon's forces were waiting for us and we were walking right into their trap. But I knew that I couldn't back down. Not now, not when the fate of Aethereia hung in the balance. "I'll take a team with me," I said, my voice firm. "We'll face whatever dangers lie ahead head on." The rebels nodded, their faces set with determination. We knew that this was it, our final stand against Archon's tyranny. And I was ready to lead the charge. Previously, Alex and Arkea escaped the ancient city of Eldred as it was consumed by a catastrophic event, and they fled to the Resistance's base to warn them of the impending ecological disaster. With Aethereia's ecosystem on the brink of collapse, Alex and the rebels must act fast to counter Archon's destructive plans. As I stood amidst the rebels, preparing to embark on our most perilous mission yet, the weight of our responsibility hung heavy in the air. The fate of Aethereia rested on our shoulders, and I knew that we were the only ones who could save it. "All right, here's the plan," I said, my eyes scanning the faces of my team. "Arkea, you'll lead the way into Archon's stronghold. Kale, your team will provide cover from the outside. The rest of us will infiltrate the stronghold, aiming to disable their energy grid and disrupt their plans." The team nodded, their determination evident in their eyes. We knew that this was a high-risk operation, but we had no other choice. As we approached the stronghold, the air grew thick with tension. Archon's forces patrolled the perimeter, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of us. We snuck in under the cover of night, our footsteps silent on the wet earth. Once inside, we split into 3 teams, each with a specific objective. Arkea and I made our way to the heart of the stronghold, where the energy grid pulsed with power. Kale's team provided cover from the outside, taking out key targets and creating a diversion. The third team, led by Ira, worked to disable the stronghold's defenses, clearing a path for our escape. We fought our way through narrow corridors, avoiding deadly traps and taking down Archon's soldiers. The stronghold was a maze of twisting passages and hidden chambers, but we pushed forward, driven by our determination to save Aethereia. Finally, we reached the energy grid. Arkea worked her magic, hacking into the system and disabling the grid's main power source. The stronghold's defenses began to fail, and we knew we had to get out fast. As we made our way back to the exit, Archon's forces closed in, their blasters firing on full auto. We fought our way out, the sound of gunfire and explosions echoing through the stronghold. But just as we reached the exit, a figure emerged from the shadows. Thrakos, Archon's deadliest assassin, stood before us, his eyes blazing with fury. "You're too late," he sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "The energy surge is already building. There's no way to stop it now." I raised my blaster, ready to take him down. But as I did, the stronghold began to shake, the ground trembling beneath our feet. The energy surge was building and we were running out of time. "Fall back," I yelled, grabbing Arkea and sprinting towards the exit. "We have to get out of here now." The rebels followed, our footsteps pounding the earth as we fled the stronghold. We emerged into the night air, the toxic fumes still churning above us. But I knew that we weren't safe yet. The energy surge was building and we had to find a way to stop it. But as I looked up at the sky, I saw something that made my heart skip a beat. A fleet of ships descending from the darkness, their lights blazing like stars. It was Elysium's fleet, responding to our distress call. We had reinforcements, and with them, we might just have a chance to save Aethereia. But as the ships landed, their troops pouring out onto the battlefield, I knew that this was far from over. Archon's forces were regrouping, preparing for a final stand, and I knew that I had to lead the charge. The fate of Aethereia hung in the balance, and I was ready to do whatever it took to save it. Previously, Alex and Arkea escaped the ancient city of Eldred, as it was consumed by a catastrophic event, and they fled to the Resistance's base to warn them of the impending ecological disaster. With Aethereia's ecosystem on the brink of collapse, Alex and the rebels must act fast to counter Archon's destructive plans. As I stood on the battlefield, surrounded by Elysium's troops and the rebels, I knew that this was our last chance to save Aethereia. The energy surge was building, and if we didn't stop it, the planet would be lost forever. "All right, here's the plan," I said, my voice echoing through the comm system. "We'll split into two teams. Arkea, you'll lead a group of rebels to disable the energy grid's backup systems. Kale, your team will provide cover from the air. The rest of us will push forward, taking out Archon's forces and buying time for Arkea's team to do their job." The troops nodded, their faces set with determination. We knew that this was a long shot, but we had no other choice. As we charged forward, the battle erupted around us. Blasters fired, explosions shook the ground, and the air was thick with smoke and toxic fumes. I fought my way through the chaos, taking down Archon's soldiers and pushing forward. But despite our efforts, the energy surge was growing stronger. The ground trembled beneath our feet and the air was charged with electricity. I knew that we were running out of time. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the battlefield. Arkea's team had succeeded in disabling the backup systems, but it was too late. The energy surge was building to a critical point, and we were powerless to stop it. That's when I saw a massive energy vortex forming above us, its power coursing through the air like a living entity. It was the energy surge, and it was going to destroy Aethereia. I knew that I had to act fast. I remembered the words of the ancient Aethereian speaking of an ancient artifact hidden deep within the planet's core. The artifact, known as the Heart of Aethereia, had the power to absorb and redirect energy. It was our only hope. "Arkea, Kale, we need to get to the heart of Aethereia now," I yelled, grabbing my team and sprinting towards the planet's core. We fought our way through Archon's forces, dodging deadly traps and avoiding the energy surge's destructive power. Finally, we reached the heart of Aethereia, a glowing crystal nestled deep within the planet's core. Arkea worked her magic, hacking into the artifact's ancient systems. The heart of Aethereia began to glow, absorbing the energy surge's power and redirecting it back into the planet. The energy surge dissipated and the planet began to heal. The toxic fumes dissipated and the air grew clean once more. We had done it, we had saved Aethereia. But as we emerged from the planet's core, exhausted and battered, I knew that this was far from over. Archon's forces were regrouping and Thrakos was still out there, waiting for his chance to strike. We had won a battle, but the war was far from won. I looked up at the sky, seeing the stars twinkling like diamonds. I knew that our journey was far from over and that the fate of Aethereia still hung in the balance. But I was ready. I had grown into a leader, and I knew that I had the courage and determination to see this through. The destiny of Aethereia rested on my shoulders, and I was ready to bear the weight. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: I would stop at nothing to protect Aethereia and ensure that its people had a chance to thrive once more previously. Aethereia's ecosystem was on the brink of collapse, and Alex and the rebels had to act fast to counter Archon's destructive plans. As the energy surge built, Alex led his team in a desperate bid to stop the catastrophe, fighting their way through Archon's forces and racing against time to save the planet. With the energy surge neutralized and the planet beginning to heal, Alex, Arkea, and their allies regrouped, knowing that Thrakos and Archon's forces still posed a significant threat. They had won a crucial battle, but the war was far from over. As we emerged from the planet's core, I called a meeting with the rebels and Elysium's troops to discuss our next move. We had saved Aethereia, but we knew that Archon would not take this defeat lightly. "We need to take out Thrakos and Archon's command center," I said, my voice firm and resolute. "It's the only way to ensure that they can't regroup and launch another attack." Arkea nodded in agreement, her eyes flashing with determination. "I know the layout of the command center. I can get us in, but we'll need to be quick and precise." Kale nodded, his jaw set. "I'll provide air support. We'll clear a path for you to get in and take out Thrakos." I nodded, a plan forming in my mind. "All right, let's do this. We'll move out in 2 hours. Gear up, and let's put an end to this once and for all." The team dispersed, each member moving to prepare for the final push. I watched them go, my heart swelling with pride. We had come so far, and now it was time to finish what we started. As we approached the command center, I could feel the tension building. This was it, the final showdown. We sneaked in, avoiding traps and guards until we reached Thrakos' chamber. The renegade commander sneered at me, his eyes cold and calculating. "You're a fool, Alex. You think you can take down Archon?" I smiled, a fierce determination burning within me. "I've come too far to turn back now, Thrakos. It's over." The battle was intense, Thrakos using every trick in the book to try and take me down, but I was ready. I had grown into a powerful force, and I would not be defeated. Finally, with a burst of energy, I struck the final blow. Thrakos fell, and the command center began to shut down. Archon's forces were in disarray, and for the first time in centuries, Aethereia was free. As we emerged from the command center, I looked up at the sky, feeling the warm sun on my face. Aethereia was reborn, and a new era had begun. Epilogue. I stood on the edge of Elysium, looking out at the newly restored landscape. The once barren wasteland was now teeming with life, and the air was fresh and clean. Aethereia was free, and its people were finally able to live in peace. Arkea stood beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "You did it, Alex. You saved Aethereia." I smiled, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. "We did it together. We're not done yet, though. We have a planet to rebuild and a future to forge." As I looked out at the horizon, I knew that the journey was far from over, but I was ready. I had grown into a leader, and I knew that I had the courage and determination to see Aethereia through its next chapter. The stars twinkled above, a reminder of the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Aethereia was reborn, and its future was bright.